Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bhad Pranamahamsa Padurikacharya Ashtottara Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtottara Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. We're going to be on page 674 tonight. 674. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of November 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're in chapter 18 entitled Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. Text 20 at the top of page 674. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tagyanam viddhisatvikam. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tagyanam viddhisatvikam. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tagyanam viddhisatvikam. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Anyone else? Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu. 674. Tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Do you want to try? Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Ladies? Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamam vyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. No? Okay. Anyone in Zoom land?
Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam
Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam
bhavam avyayam ikshate
bhavamam vyayamikshate
avibhaktam vibhakteshu
avibhaktam vibhakteshu
tadjnanam vidhi sattvikam.
tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam.
Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate
Bhavamam vyayamikshate
avibhaktam vibhakteshu
avibhaktam vibhakteshu
tadjnanam vidhi sattvikam.
tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam. Sarvabhuteshu, in all living entities, yena, by which, ekam, one, bhavam, situation, abhyayam, imperishable, ikshate, one sees, avibhaktam, undivided, vibhakteshu, in the numberless divided, tat, that, jnanam, knowledge, viddhi, know, sattvikam, in the mode of goodness. Time out. Okay, hopefully. Translation. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. A person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, aquatic, or plant, possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work. As described in the 7th chapter, the manifestation of the living force in every body is due to the superior nature of the Supreme Lord. Thus, to see that one superior nature, that living force in every body, is to see in the mode of goodness. That living energy is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. Differences are perceived in terms of the body. Because there are many forms of material existence in conditional life, the living force appears to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge is an aspect of self-realization. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is knowledge in the mode of goodness, and this is the vision of seeing that everyone is spirit, and that spirit is essentially the same, is part of Krishna's internal energy. He says in the 7th chapter, Prabhupada refers to the 7th chapter, apare mitastvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahamaho yahedam dharyate jagat. That besides this lower energy, this apara prakriti, which is material nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, false ego, there is a superior energy of mind comprising these living beings, this higher energy. Param jiva bhutam yayadam dharyate jagat. And he says that they're actually sustaining this universe. We're exploiting it, but at the same time we're sustaining it. Just like you can see in each of our bodies, as Prabhupada said, is like a little mini universe. We're thinking that we're the controller of the universe. What we want to happen happens, but we really aren't. We have some control sometimes, but ultimately it's under the control of material energy, which is under control of Krishna, and we don't know what's going on in the body. We don't know how to preserve it. We're just riding along on this vehicle, yantra rudani maya. But one who sees that everyone is spirit, and sees that the plants, they're also spirit, because they're very rudimentary consciousness, but they're living entities. They try to react to the sun, they grow, eventually they die, and they go on to another body like that. So that kind of vision is the mode of goodness. It's not the mode of pure goodness, it's not complete transcendental vision, where you're seeing each individual soul as a distinct entity, part and parcel of Krishna. And actually you see two souls. You see the super soul also is not mentioned here. So this is a mode of goodness, and because you see that one spirit, you tend to be equipoised. In other words, you're not making superficial distinctions based on the external body. You're seeing the one spirit in everyone, and therefore, as will be explained, you are as it's mentioned in the 5th chapter, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gabihastini Shuni Chaiva Shrapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana. This word Samadarshana. This says that for the one who has this transcendental vision, which includes this vision, is that you see the essential oneness of the learned and humble Brahman, the cow, the elephant, the dog eater. They're all in different bodies and they're having in different moods and modes, but you're seeing the essential oneness of them. And therefore you don't react to the superficial, you don't make judgments on the basis of the superficial externalities. And that vision is possible when one is on the transcendental plane. This is someone who is on the Brahma Bhuta plane, and that's one of the things, is this equipoise and this equanimity that you regard. You're moving in a different level than most people who are controlled by the modes of nature, where you're reacting, is this person exploiting, is there a threat? There's all kinds of distinctions you make there. So that's what this is about. And see in the mode of goodness. Now Prabhupada says such impersonal knowledge is an aspect of self-realization. So this is like the A of the ABC of self-realization. To see that there's a spirit in everyone, and that spirit is essentially the same, but it's manifest through different bodies, and therefore it shows differently externally. So that's what this is about. Then we're going to read about the knowledge in the mode of passion and ignorance. Any questions on text 20? Go ahead, Donovan. Gotta have a mic. So that people like you and Dhanavari can hear if you're manifested.
Hare Krishna. So my question is, when you said we see human dog eater in equal level, and only transcendental level they can see equally, and we shouldn't be judgmental to at at like whoever is eating like meat or whatever if they're doing. So are we supposed to, we are not at that level, so we can see differently, not like them, because I'm conditioned soul, so I don't see them, everybody equal in that sense, like dog and then dog eater. And
Well, you should try to see what they say, Shastra Chakshus, through the eyes of Scripture. Krishna has made it very clear that the living entities, they don't change. In other words, they never die, they're never born, they don't go through the 6 changes that the body goes through. Everyone is born, every organism is born, they grow, right? Become a little baby. And then you become mature, you stay for some time, and you produce byproducts, children or whatever, then gradually dwindle and death. And this is true of all these organisms. They're all coming into being, staying for some time like that. So what a transcendentalist sees through the eyes of Shastra, you can think of the 2nd chapter, that there is this, what are the qualities of the soul? That's the actual person. Is unchanging, ever-existing, undying, primeval. So that soul is the conscious, minute particle that is pervading this body with consciousness. Abhinashita tadvadi yena sarvamidam is pervading this body. Anybody, from the dog to the whale to the insect to the plant, and our bodies. And we're temporarily in this body. The body is constantly changing. When it finally dies, never to be seen again, we'll move on, you know, and hopefully we'll go back to Godhead, or, you know, continue our path back to Godhead. But all of these other, the souls are moving up. So you can understand and see that way. In other words, you may not, you know, have a revelation of it, but you see through your intelligence. Whereas where many other people, you know, most people are seeing passion or ignorance, where they're making distinctions on the basis of the external body. This whole culture, civilization, not just America, but everywhere, there's a tremendous external consciousness. The land you're born in, the language you speak, you know, your family tree, right? All of that, oh, that's who I am. That's who I am. We got to stick together, you know. And so much racism, it's insane. All based on the superficial body. So devotees see through that. No, what is the person's quality? Are they, you know, can I somehow give them a little bit of Krishna consciousness? It doesn't matter who it is, as long as they're sane and sober. I can help them on their path, you know. So a devotee sees the spirit soul as not just a part and parcel of Krishna, but as a servant of Krishna, as a person who is covered by ignorance and illusion. And so when you see it like that, then you see the whole world as family, big family actually. And that includes the animals and, you know, everything. So that's how we should see. And you can't always see it that way, but you can understand it. The more that you read and you understand and you actually act on that way and you deal with people that way, then you can feel that, yes, there's a spark of Krishna consciousness there in everybody. That they can be awakened.
Even though like in our general life, like we see meat eater, alcohol, whatever they do, drugs, whatever. So somehow it's hard to, I'm not trying to judge them, but we shouldn't judge them at the same time, keep distance from them, but not judge them, oh, because they eat meat, they are bad, or something in practical life. Sometimes I have a hard time of like.
Yeah, I mean, we're also conditioned to a degree, but as we tried to come up to the medium platform, the second tier of devotion. So Ishvare tadardeshu balisheshu prema maitri kripo peksheya karoti samajima. We try to develop devotion and love for Krishna, for God. We develop friendship with the devotees. We have compassion for the innocent who may be receptive, and we avoid the out-and-out, demons who are enemies of God, you know, who are just out to oppose, you know, the science of Krishna. And that's how we should try to live. We're not making it. We don't bear any enmity, but we have a mission to accomplish, and we also need to protect their own consciousness. We don't want to be drawn in. There's so much warning against association with non-devotees. It means getting into their mood and being affected by their association. If you're actually trying to give someone a book and speaking to them about Krishna, even though whatever level they're at, you're not being affected. But if you listen, and especially if you hang out, that's no good. So we try to avoid that. All right, let's go on, okay?
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Okay, text 21. Pritatvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan pritag vidhan Beti sarveshu bhuteshu Tagyanam vidyarajasam. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Purport: the concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of the body the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there's no special individual or spirit supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. So the philosophical speculations are endless. Once you detach yourself from the Shastra, you're not getting your information from Bhagavad Gita. There are all kinds of speculations. You can study Western philosophy, and a lot of it comes down to consciousness being an epiphenomenon of the brain or something like that, But they really don't know. They're not certain what consciousness is. They can't. It's a great mystery still. But Krishna is very clear. Mamaya vangsho jiva loka jiva bhuta sanat. The jivas, the living entity, are my part and parcels eternally. They never change intrinsically. But because of the changing mind and the body, we see the consciousness manifest in different ways, and therefore they seem to be different. But it's just like a bright light can be filtered through so many colored filters, and appear to be completely different. But the light itself is the same. So the soul is always the same. Krishna's eternal part and parcel. And in this material sphere, we're encased by the body, which consists of so many senses, and the mind controlling that. And as we act in this world, not under the instruction of Shastra, but just under the influence of the modes of nature and all the different complex things, then our mind is constantly changing, and our senses are constantly changing, and everything. And we're associated with the modes of nature. And as we associate, we make our destiny. Purushak pakatisto hi bhungte pakati jangana. Same verse. Karanang gunasangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. The cause of our getting higher or lower births is how we associate with the modes. Now, what influences that? It's a combination of karma and desire and all kinds of things. And it's not Krishna's will that we get degraded. It's our foolishness of separating ourselves from him. So we're trying to connect again to Krishna, to his knowledge, to his devotees, so that we can train our senses, mind, intelligence to always stay connected to Krishna, which is all auspicious. And then hopefully we'll be awakened one day, maybe in this body or a future body soon, to our actual swarup, our actual spiritual form, which is part of our spiritual being and is eternal, but has now been covered for many eons. So we're trying to uncover the reality of our actual nature, our form, our qualities, our personality. That's gradually awakened in contact with Krishna through the science of Krishna consciousness. Okay, now, of course, knowledge in the mode of ignorance sounds paradoxical. Is that an oxymoron?
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Vijay Krishna.
Prabhu, just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Is it possible for a person covered by the mode of ignorance in relation to knowledge controlled by the mode of ignorance? Is it possible for this person to believe in the existence of God?
To be what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
To believe in the existence of God?
Oh, to believe in the existence of God. There are all kinds of religions, beliefs, that posit some kind of higher power. When I was in Miami, people would come up from Brazil. Devotees would come up and tell us about all kinds of, so-called dharmas in the mode of ignorance, going out worshiping a ghost, and into the forest, and offering liquor and all kinds of things. And in India, you have sometimes, things like that, lower tantra. So believing in God, you have to find what God do you believe in? What do you believe about God? What is that force? Prabhupada would often probe that, what is it that you actually believe about God? And it must be a concoction of various speculations without being rooted in the Shastra. This is the great value Prabhupada gave us, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, essential books of knowledge, Nectar of Devotion, some others, that give us authoritative, revealed knowledge of who God really is. And but there are all kinds of speculations. Krishna talks about that in the Gita also. Yamimam pushpitam vacham papadanta vipaschata. He says there are those who think that the flowery language of the Vedas, the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, promising godly delights in the Indraloka, that's all there is. That's what the Vedas are. It's possible to think, and they perform sacrifices in order to get good birth and all these different things. In the 9th chapter, right? Was it the 9th chapter? No, sorry, 7th chapter. He talks about those who have real knowledge. Many, many lives may cultivate. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. One who has cultivated knowledge in a genuine way for many, many births comes to the conclusion finally that Vasudeva is everything, Krishna is everything. Such a Mahatma is very rare. On the other hand, kamaistaistarvritti jnana prapadyante anya devata. And those whose mind has been distorted, whose intelligence has been stolen away by material desires, they worship all kinds of gods, right? To meet their needs. And you have faith and you worship, and Krishna makes your faith strong, he says there. What is it? Yo yam tanum bhakta shraddhayachitam ichati tasita sachalam shraddham tamai vavadadhamyaham. So whatever you want to worship as God, as you can call it whatever you want, and you'll find other people who are so influenced by you. Find some charismatic person, writes something, goes on for you. Then I'll make your faith. They're very strong, and they believe in it, absolutely. Even some politician or something, you can know. Yes, he'll give us what we want. Millions of people can be bewildered. So then he says, yo yam yam, whatever you want to. I will give them steady faith. And with that faith, and then you get something in your life that you can say, oh, this is valuable. Oh, my God is reciprocating with me. So you have a whole thing going on, a religion. But then he says, Antabatu palamtesham. Whatever fruits you get in that way are temporary. And they're ultimately given by me, through the material energy. But they're antabat, they're temporary. We are eternal. And we should be interested in that which is eternal benefit. If we try to find our happiness and security in that which is temporary, we got to be frustrated. That's what material life is all about. We take shelter of the body and other bodies and temporary philosophies and all this. And death finally comes and you're taken away to another place. And it's all simply dust. It doesn't come to anything. So therefore he says, Alpamadasam, only fools, those who are not too bright, means small brain substance, Prabhupada said. And then he kind of summarizes in a verse that's later expanded in the 9th chapter. Antavatu param tesham tadbhavalt alpamadasham devan devya joyanti mudbhukta yanti mamapi. That those who worship other gods, the devas, may think that they're supreme, they go to them, but their fruits are temporary and they're foolish. But those who worship me come to me. And what's the benefit? You never come back again. And you're situated in the highest paradise, happiness with Krishna, in our original place. That's it, home, back to Godhead. So, and the Bhagavatam is full of these instructions as well. So yes, God, you can worship another God or think of God according to the modes of nature you're in, but that's not going to be your salvation. Okay? Haribol Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, better than okay again. Wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much.
Haribol.
So, Prabhuji, I have a small question here. So here it says that the knowledge by which...
What's the what number is it?
Like the 20th and 21st verse. Like in the 20th it says that we see that one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities.
Yeah.
He is said to be in mode of goodness. But if we see that in the 21st verse it is said that in every different body there is a different type of living entity. Then it is said that this knowledge is mode of passion. But in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we are known that like every spirit, like every soul
is an individual.
Yeah, and Krishna has like separate. Every living soul has a separate interaction with Krishna and all that.
Yes, a relationship.
Yeah, so this appears
It seems
like
to be it's puzzling.
Yeah, it's like a Maya.
I think the key word is type. The different type of living entity. It's not just a different living entity, but different quality of living entity. You see? Oh, this is a eternally, foolish living entity, or like that. That's the problem. Is you're projecting the physical differences, and we all have, obviously every body is different, onto the soul. That this is just from my childhood. We were trying to identify as the Jews, the Jewish soul. There was that phrase, the Jewish soul. I long ago gave that up, but that's ignorance, and that's in the mode of passion here. That these people, because of who they are, they're eternally damned, and like that type of thing. That's craziness. That's what's being spoken of here. Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a question. I heard that, I heard a statement saying that unless you come to the mode of goodness, you cannot really practice spirituality. On the other hand, I've also heard other statement which says that whatever position you are in, you can immediately practice devotional life. And there is also this varnashram dharma, right? According to your modes of nature, you do activities. So how can you please explain?
How do we reconcile these two? In the practice set given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone is eligible to chant and dance and perform the essential practice of Krishna consciousness. But if there's no restriction, obviously, to that. That was Prabhupada's great revolution. That was Lord Chaitanya's revolution. It was a big challenge to the Smarta Brahmins and the established, establishment, and they complained, the whole thing. But that's the idea. Kirata hunanda pulinda pugasha. It says that even outcasts, those who are not even part of the Vedic culture, they may be in foreign lands or whatever it is. If they, what does it say there? And other sinful persons, they're born in sinful families or whatever. Yadapashriyashriya. But they take shelter of one who has taken shelter of God. In other words, they come in contact with a pure spiritual master. Taking shelter means you agree to follow the rules and regulations that's given them. They also can be purified. Shuddhanti. Tasmai Prabha Vishnu. I obeisance to the powerful Vishnu. Like that. That's the prayers of Shukadev, second canto. Most famous one. So the idea is that any human being, that's not a human being, is eligible to take up the process of devotional service. But in order to progress, and indeed to stay with the process, you have to be willing to undergo the austerities, the do's and the don'ts, so that you'll actually become purified. Perfect example, Jagai Madai. Now they had fallen, they were born as Brahmins, but they fell into the most horrible activities, criminal and sinful. They were drunkards and everything. But although they physically attacked Nityananda, he still showed them mercy, and Lord Chaitanya eventually showed them and delivered them, and they became completely transformed. So who can say that they weren't eligible? Because the people were giving them wide berth. They said, "Don't approach these two. They're hopeless." But Nityananda realized they're perfect representatives of the present age of Kali. So the idea is that anyone can begin practicing devotional service. But in order to actually advance, you have to undergo a transformation. You have to become purified. Be willing. That's what that Rishabdev's teaching is all about. We studied those, right? Nayam deho deha bhajang niloke krishtan kamanana deva bhujange. He says, "Oh, sons, don't just get tangled up in sense gratification, which is on the level of the hogs and the dogs," Prabhupada says. Human life is meant for something higher. And immediately, I don't know, he throws down the gauntlet, but he gives it as it is. Tapodivyam. You need to practice austerity. And next time, Daniel, you can walk around behind me, because you're walking right. Okay. So what is that austerity? He says, it defines it right there. Activities which purify your existence. That's divyam. That's divya tapa. That's divine, That's what, as we practice. And what's the advantage? You'll come to the state. Now, of course, this is fast forwarding, if you practice properly. Shuddhya yasmad, if you become purified, brahma saukyam tunantam. You become eligible to enjoy transcendental happiness, to actually relish the fruit of devotional service, which is deeper and deeper happiness in relation to Krishna. It's Krishna's service. So everyone is eligible to begin, provided you agree to follow the rules and regulations. Now, even if you don't, okay, I can't do this, the chant anyway. Try to chant, because the holy name is so powerful that it will purify you, give the inspiration to come to the point of being able to follow. And there are many people like that. They chant a little bit, and they follow a little bit, but they're stuck, in so many things, and they can't really go on. But if we understand the philosophy, okay, let's take the broad view. Life, we're going to enter another body. We'll keep trying in the next life, like that. Whatever you do, don't give it up. Do what you can do, and try to do more. But do what you can do, and stay with it, and keep the faith, and read, like that. So that's how it's open to everyone. But if you really want to advance, then you have to do A, B, C, and D, and go like that. So it's very ecumenical. Should we go on? Okay. So now, knowledge in the mode of ignorance. You figure that one out. Yattu kritsnavade kasmin karyai sakta mahaitukam atat varta vadalpam cha tat tamasamadharitam. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. And then Prabhupada, his quotes here, Prabhupada, that knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of Scripture. For him, God is money, or money is God, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion, and knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So this is very interesting because knowledge is confirmed as real knowledge if you act on it. You act on what you do according to that knowledge. And here it's that whatever you know is not really going to change the way you act. You find some knowledge that confirms the way you want to act. You know, that's the mode of ignorance. Or we find so-called knowledge is becoming more and more common today. It's completely fantastical. They go misinformation, disinformation. People live in an imaginary world, and they only go to those sites that confirm what they already believe, and so it's confirmed again and again. But it's a complete concoction. It can be a fantasy world, just like children. You grow up and you see some cartoon, or you see the Wizard of Oz. All of these. It's a million different things, and that becomes part of your belief system, isn't it? You're living in that. You're singing the songs. You got the toys. So that's clearly not something you can live by. But really, all the knowledge that in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, even if it's goodness, it's not good enough. It has to be transcendental. It's living in a fantastical world, a world that is ultimately unreal. And we come back to one of my favorite verses, Arte vidyamane pi sangsute nanavartate dhyayeto vishayane sa swapne nartagamo yata. That this whole world of samsara, birth and death and all of the sufferings, ultimately is like the sufferings in a dream, in a nightmare. But here, this verse says, but even though they're ultimately unreal in the deepest sense, they don't cease for you, for one who is meditating on the object of the senses. In other words, you can go life after life in this dreamlike existence. And indeed, Prabhupada says in the Ultimate Dead, this is what Maya is all about. This is our life separate from Krishna, from the spiritual world. Real life, real Sat existence, Sat Chidananda, is in the spiritual world. Eternal truth, it doesn't change, right? And it's good to remind us what that world is. It says, Shriya Kanta Kanta Padama Parusha Kalpatadavo Druma Bhumish Chinda Managana Mahi Tohi Marmatam Kata Ganam Nachim Gamanamapi Vangshi Priyasaki Chidanandam Joti Padamapita Sayatra Chirabdi Sravadi Sadabibhyasti Sumaha Nameshara Kyova Vajati Nihiyatra Pisamayak Bhaje Shweta Dvipam Tamahamiha Golokamitiham Vidandaste Sandha Chitibidachara Katipaye. So it's describing, Lord Brahma is describing in his vision what's going on in Goloka. And he says there, all the beloveds of Krishna are goddesses of fortune. They're eternal damsels. Shriya Kanta, Kanta Padama Purushak. And the beloved of all of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Padama Purushak. The trees there are all desire trees. The water is nectar. The land is Chintamani jewels. The walking is dancing. The talking is singing. And everything is glowing with this Chidananda, this spiritual bliss. Padamapita dasvajamapicha. One can taste that effulgence of bliss everywhere. Cows, the Surabhi cows are everywhere, and they're pouring milk on the ground. And not a half a second passes away there. There's only the eternal present. There's no past, no future. Nobody gets old. Nothing like that. And this land is known as Shwetadvip, the effulgent white planets, are known to only a very few pure souls who walk the earth. So this is Lord Brahma's vision. That's our home. And it's variegated. It's ever fresh. There's always a new adventure. It's not that it's hackneyed or stultified. So that's in contrast to here, where everything is always in flux. The illusion of permanence is what is broken by some shock to the system. You know, like I had my little accident here. Suddenly I couldn't walk, you know, I couldn't do what I was going to do. Everything was painful. And you're reminded, you're in a very fragile machine here. It's a total illusion to think that you're going to be young forever, that you can, you know, do what you can do now. And therefore, as we learned this morning in the class, don't waste time. Immediately strive for the ultimate good and do what we should know we should do. And take shelter means, you know, get your inspiration for what to do and what not to from higher sources and stick with that rather than from the lower modes of nature. So that's what this means. He's stuck to some activity. I'm not going to change. I know what I like, you know, and I don't care what you're telling me. That's the fools, the mode of ignorance, the so-called knowledge of the mode of ignorance. It's so dangerous because you think you know what's what, but you don't, and it just leads you off a cliff. That's what mode of ignorance does. All right, moving along. Text 23. Niyatang sangarahitam aragad veshchatakritam apalapripsuna karma yattat satvikamuchyate. Okay, now karma, or action in different modes. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results, is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport: regulated occupational duties, as prescribed in the scriptures in terms of the different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or self-gratification, are called action in the mode of goodness. So here we have, moving into Krishna conscious activity. So this is why it is said that the mode of goodness is a kind of a foundation that you have to come to really progress in devotional service. So Prabhupada is, all the Krishna conscious activities have this quality, but I think there can be some activity in the mode of goodness that's not, some activity that's not completely Krishna conscious, but still has these qualities of detachment. Prabhupada would talk about Chanakya Pandit or other great Brahmins who were advisors to kings, and they cherished their independence, meaning that they lived very austerely. I just heard a lecture today, I forget who he was talking about, but this king had a Brahmin advisor, and they came to him, and, oh no, it was Chanakya himself, I think. And so he got some advice, and then he questioned the advice. He started, please explain this, you know, he started arguing with him. I quit, you know. And they could do that because they lived so austerely. He said that the real wealth of the Brahmins is austerity. And you can see how valuable that is. There's always an intellectual class. There's always an intelligentsia in any society. These four varnas are there. There's a charismatic people who are good at managing others, leaders, you know, the Kshatriya class. Then there's always Vaishyas, those who are good at making money. And then the mass of laborers and manual laborers, you know. So, but the key is the intellectual class, because they're meant to be the brain of society. But if they get bought off by the Vaishyas or the Kshatriyas, and they're motivated, then it's being misused. Their intellect is being misused for lower purposes, and that's what we find today. And, you know, that whole university department. You can find a perfect example is that history of the tobacco industry, where obviously their product was killing people, you know, and yet they would pay corrupt doctors, you know, to testify. Well, there's no proof for that, you know. We did these tests, you know. The doctors have some trust, you know. And this is carried over to today. Even today, there's a vast number of people who don't say, no. You know, it's like this. I'm not going to take this treatment, whatever. This mistrust can be fatal, you know. So that's the corruption of the Brahminical class is what Kali Yuga is all about. All the classes are corrupt, but when the head gets corrupted, then everything gets misdirected. So Prabhupada said, I want to create some Brahmins, real Brahmins. Austere, Krishna conscious, can actually give good advice and can, guide society. Because without that, it's like, when the head is mad or sick, the whole society suffers, obviously. So that's what's described here. That in the mode of goodness, they have these qualities. Without attachment, without love or hatred, without desire for the results, is said to be in the mode of goodness. And then, yattu kamipsuna karma, sahankarena vapunaha, kriyate bahulayasam, tadrajasamudaditam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. Okay, one more. Anubandham chayam himsam, anapeksha cha paurusham, mohadarabhyate karma, yattatamasam uchate. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Purport: one has to give account of one's actions to the state or to the agents of the Supreme Lord, called the Yamadutas. Irresponsible work is destructive because it destroys the regulative principles of scriptural injunction. It is often based on violence and is distressing to other living entities. Such irresponsible work is carried out in the light of one's personal experience. This is called illusion, and all such illusory work is a product of the mode of ignorance. So, it sounds like what we see today everywhere, is that certainly in disregard of scriptural injunctions, without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress. This whole, I don't know if there's anyone here who doesn't believe in climate change. I think that's kind of you may disagree of the cause of it, but it's actually obviously going on, and yet that there's large numbers of people, even in this country, who at least say that they disbelieve in it, that it's not actually happening. People in the government. One guy came into the Congress with a snowball to prove that there's no global warming because it's snowing in Washington, D.C. So this, and is it lawmakers? These are people who are in charge of the government. So disregard and without concern for future bondage. What does it mean when you have the Exxon Mobil? They knew 40 years ago that their product, you're burning fossil fuels, and it's going to increase, and it's going to warm up. They had their own scientists, top flight scientists, told them. Said, oh yeah, we got to do something about that. We have to create, pay people to put out papers, official university papers, that there's some doubt about it. In other words, the only thing that they're thinking of is how we can maximize the profit as long as possible. That's demonic. That's demonic. And that's exactly what the mode of ignorance does. Without concern for future bondage for themselves or others, or for violence or distress caused to others. So this movement is trying to upgrade the quality of knowledge that people accept as the truth and that they act on. Prabhupada always talked about that there's no universities teaching about the soul and the A of the ABC of Krishna's teachings here, which is essential for human prosperity. So he very much wanted the schools to be distributed in books. We had the library party, that we would distribute books in the universities. And he wanted this knowledge to have its effect in how people live their lives. So we're, like it or not, we're revolutionaries. And we need to take up the torch of the truth for the benefit of ourselves and everyone else. Okay, we'll resume tomorrow with text 26. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.